Hi, welcome to the Real Men of Real Estate, where we answer all the things that you're interested in real estate. In this episode, we're going to focus on marketing programs. I am your host, Tunde Ogunwole. I'm joined by Steve Matley. Good to see you again. And Brian Fox,
Yes,
the
sir.
CEO and founder of Fox Realty.
See ya.
And on Zoom, we've got Jeffrey Brogger. Hey, Jeffrey.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Jeffrey, you've got an interesting background. You are a CEO and founder of a marketing firm. You want to tell the audience a little bit more about your background and what your firm does?
Absolutely. So Steezy.Digital is a technology company, and what we do is install a system that generates sales conversations from social media. And we focus primarily on residential real estate brokers.
Fantastic. Well, this episode, we're just going to freeform it as it relates to marketing. So all of us have a different background as it relates to real estate. You have an expertise in really connecting with the audience and connecting with your target group. If you could share a little bit about your platform, how it works, and how effective it is, I think that would be a great way to kind of learn a little bit more.
Yes, absolutely. So really what the platform does is it combines the most popular social media sites, and it is a done-for-you system for real estate brokers. Because I come from a direct sales background, and I'm also on the younger side, right? So I'm part of the millennial generation, so I grew up with social media. I have a deep understanding of it. So with those two things combined, I realized there's a huge need in the real estate space for someone to come in, for brokers who have done really well for 10, 15, 20 years, and to help them with all that social media stuff. But past that, they don't really want to learn it, do it every day, so they really need it done for them. And so that's really the vision, is that we created a system that is installed into their business. It leverages Facebook, leverages Instagram, leverages Facebook Messenger, and it's just done for them. So they flick it on, and then they start to connect with home buyers and sellers in their local market.
Fantastic. And Brian, you got a really strong background in the residential space. I know that you're really familiar with marketing. Love to hear a couple thoughts as relates to that.
Well, so we talk about this quite a bit, because if you're ever in front of a client, the mysticism behind residential and real estate marketing is that if you're an agent, you have some sort of magic power around marketing that you cannot possess in many of the online forums. And it's not true. Honestly, there's only what you can do is just spend more money. The only thing you can do is throw a hammer at it and say, I'm going to spend more money than this person, and assume that does something. Well, the reality is, most of what's done online captures 90% of the audience already. There's very little you can do to persuade and move more people. And that is a big thing. So for us, in our world, most of it is online. We do print, but we do rely on systems that are online, like social media and chats, but the majority is imagery. So for instance, we spend a lot of time in presenting the space. So when it comes to a house, we actually will make that house look, we stage the property, we photograph it a certain way. We want the imagery to come across a certain way, because what we're relying on is not a conversation at that point. What we're relying on is for them to stop. So the way that people are, what we're competing for today is attention. In their phones, I forget the metric, and maybe Jeffrey, maybe you know it. Do you know what the metric is on attention spans right now? It's like it's less than a goldfish. I know that. Do you know? Do you throw it out every once in a while? Yeah, it's something like minute. It's like it's like a third of a second, and then they're off on their brain to the next thing. So we have to get them to stop. So the main point for you when it comes to houses and clients is we have to make the property appear a certain way with the proper pricing structure that gives them what we call the digital value. They look a certain way, and based upon that, we get them to pause. If we get them to pause, we might get them to save it. If we get them to save it, we might get them to show up, and based upon that, we might have a conversation at the end. But the reality is we have to get to that first. And the biggest part is if they do reach out, and I think this is what Jeffrey's going to point on, when they reach out, we have to make sure we are there to get the call. Because if we don't, we have lost them within the first minute to 5 minutes. They're gone. 5 minutes, gone. That lead is out. They're out on the property. They've lost their attention span. It's off. And the ability to possibly get them again, 80% fail rate. You have the most chance at the beginning. Either it's 50-50 or some metric Jeffrey will probably say. But after that, it drops so dynamically that you can almost never get them back.
Got to get them early.
You got to get a look right and be in the right frame of mind.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and to add to that, it's really just about service, right? And we don't create content, so that's phenomenal that Brian is big on content. And I'm sure that you're leveraging video as well.
Totally.
That catches their attention, right? That catches their intent in the moment. Like, oh, I'm looking for a home in this area. This one looks great. But then once they do reach out, is it good service to then follow up with them 24 hours later? No. but you got to be there for them when they do raise their hand and reach out to you. And so that's a lot of what my system does. Is it's great at capturing that first 5 minutes of their intent and interest, and then also nurturing them over the 3 to 6 month buying process, because not everyone is ready today. And I think that's an important thing to note for any agents out there that that you're doing lead generation. It's huge to let them guide them through that process with value-based content, and not just the standard email drip campaign that everyone talks you into. And it's got to be new, fresh, interactive, and educational.
Yeah. What's exciting about this is in some of the industrial logistics center, it is a little bit more traditional, where the brokers in my market, they know each other, we communicate with them and share where we are in the stages of development to try to bring in some tenant interest. But it is more word of mouth, or their brochures, or their emails. So it's really cool to see that interactive connectivity that you're talking about as it relates to the social media platforms and the videos.
So
awesome.
Brian, you mentioned that imagery was the main thing. But
Totally.
I can't tell you how many times on my social media feeds I get things from real estate agents, and they're all, it's the agent standing in front of some big mansion that they've never actually listed or sold. Nobody's standing in front of the small tract house that's actually what they're dealing with.
Yep.
Or they're standing in front of a Rolls Royce or a Lamborghini or something. Is that effective at all?
I certainly hope not, because I don't do it because it's so nauseating. I mean, it just, and Jeff, agents are weird, man. Everyone I've ever met who's gotten a license is trying to be Instagram famous the day they got it. And it's like, everyone has nothing to do with anything. See, the problem is that people, once they become this, this guy, this real estate guy, they become this marketing person, a CEO, they become all these things, and they think they have to be because of what they see as being the collective success. They see the person being successful, they want to emulate that, and then they throw out very positive, wake up, take the day, repeat, kind of like this crazy, like Braveheart style, like business mentality of getting after stuff. It's nonsense.
Now, is a lot of that driven by, because I know all the real estates tend to go to the same marketing gurus that are out there. There's 3 or 4 of them that fill up the hotel for 2 days on the weekend,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
And they all show up, and everybody runs out and does the exact same thing.
Right.
That's right.
Okay, so how does that, like what Jeffrey's doing, how does that kind of help differentiate?
Well, and so this is actually, I was about to say this. So this is, and I'm sure Jeff will put on this, is that you have to show up where they expect you to show up, and then show up with what they expect you to show up with. And what I mean by that, and you mentioned it when it comes to customer service. See, most people in this in the real estate business specifically, we have this idea that we have to be salespeople, and we are not. We are customer service representatives. That's it. There is no sale. I have yet to figure, maybe you can tell me, how to get someone to cut a check for $1 million because I was really good at talking them into the house. It doesn't happen. But by gathering more information, by serving, by doing stuff, by following up when I said I'm going to do it, by keeping the promise, and not trying to get the money out of them, they follow through and they do buy something.
Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why service is such a big part of it. And the really ironic beauty of people that are trying to become Instagram famous all overnight once they get their license is that social media actually has the ability to now create transparency into what's going on day to day with a business. So the interesting part is that if you're not truly waking up every day, typically there's a spike in the beginning and then they fall off. But I love the clients that really are doing it, because I tell them, you don't need to create content, just document what you're doing. Document meeting with your team, document going and showing a home with a new potential client, right? You're just documenting what you're actually doing every day. And that's why social media isn't going to 100% make your business if you have no business, but it will enhance it if you are already doing the day-to-day actions.
Okay, Jeffrey, you mentioned that your app doesn't just go to the feeds, it also goes into the messaging part of it. So is that more effective, doing the direct messaging through social media as opposed to just putting things up on your feed?
Yes, so just to give you some numbers, email open rates are declining, right? The average email open rate is under 20%, it's around 15%. So if you send out 1,000 emails to a list of people that opted in, about 150 will open it, and far less, about 1% will click through. If you were to build a following on social media and you start to connect with them through Facebook Messenger in the United States, which is the most popular messaging app in the US,
Jeffrey, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll give you a little bit more time after we take this quick break with our sponsors to explain a little bit more about the data and the analytics and how your platform and your systems work to really capture that interest and are effective.
appears these hot ashes are about to be dumped, which could possibly start a wildfire. How will Smokey deal with such a hot situation? The garden hose defense. Next, a thorough stir. Then another spray. And finally, feeling if the ashes are cool.
Oh, yeah.
Ah yes, the selfie. A ritual practiced so frequently with this tribe, but not so much by Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to the Real Men of Real Estate, where we're focused on marketing programs for different product types. We were just in the middle of a great discussion led by Jeffrey Brogger on data analytics and how that influences marketing.
Yep. So I was discussing the difference between email open rates, something that was traditionally made for the computer, which was email, and then had now been moved over to the mobile device. And then the difference between that and Facebook Messenger, which was a native app that was made for the phone, and that's where everyone's attention is. It's in their phone, right? So the difference is that email, the open rates, if you're building a list, they're under 15%. The open rates for Messenger are over 80%. More than 4 times more effective at getting the message out there to the clients and the customers that you are building, nurturing, and educating. So when I saw these numbers, I had to immediately implement it into my business and begin to offer that for real estate agents and brokers, because it's a better way. And that's one of my fundamental beliefs, is that when something isn't working anymore, there has to be a better way. Well, I think that Messenger and messaging apps are more one-to-one, and they're more personal, and they're much more robust in the capability and the beauty of them. Text messaging marketing is pretty crude, right? There's no real photos or anything. And then email is just going to the wayside. So the hybrid and the new aspect that you can use for your business is Facebook Messenger, and it's extremely effective. And I mean, we're getting 80-90% open rates for my clients. That means that the consumers are valuing what we're putting out as well.
That's pretty powerful what you're talking about, and I think about it, most of us, I've heard some statistics that most people touch their mobile device 80 some odd times within a day minimum, and you're really recognizing that this digital attention span, we're looking at our phone and we're interacting with our phone much more than the print media. You touched on it a little bit with emails and not having a lot of success with open rates. Can you talk about the difference between what's happening online and Facebook Messenger and the other forms of marketing, whether it's paper, magazines, whatever it is?
Absolutely. So many agents are caught in the print, and it might be nice to see your glossy photo on a magazine. However, does that convert to sales? And that is the real question. Again, I come from a direct sales background and a sales management background. So for my clients, that's all I care about. And after doing some research, I don't suggest that they do print campaigns, especially if they're on a tight budget. You know, if they are on a tight budget and they're only doing print, I would highly suggest that you go towards digital and enhance that side of it, because that's where the eyeballs are. And just to give you a stat, more than half of home buyers start their search for a real estate agent online. So are they going to find you prior to doing that search or during that search? Well, if you're only on print and you have no social media presence, they're definitely not going to find you online.
Oh, that's powerful. I mean, there's a lot more reach that you can have online than you can in print. You got to pay for how much paper that you're generating, and you've already highlighted in a magazine, it's more of a branding or an image play. And if you want that, then you could do that. But if you want to be effective in terms of lead conversion and really getting the attention of your audience, then being on a platform like yours is a really powerful way. I think that's awesome.
So I have a question for you, Jeffrey, on the content. Do you find it more effective when an agent is promoting properties or promoting themselves?
Great question. It's all about the properties. And the branding is big. Like, they should have a brand that they promote that is outside of their name, or it could be their name, brokerage, their name, realty. So the brand is important, but self-promotion gets a little out of hand. You don't want to be taking photos in front of mansions that you haven't sold and doing things like that. I think the way more important piece is to, again, offer value, talk about things that you're actually doing on a daily basis, document. Content, it comes down to documentation. It comes down to documenting what you're actually doing and not needing to take all this time to fabricate something else. Just be authentic and really do your job and really serve your clients. and then take that second to take a quick Instagram story or a Facebook story, meet with your team and, Facebook Live with them and talk about what's going on this week, do a monthly market update to Facebook or Instagram Live. Like, these are the types of things that can add value as content, not taking photos of yourself and doing things like that is a little bit more self-promotion. And I'm glad you asked that because there is a line there.
Jeffrey, I do have a question. So just so we're abundantly clear, can you be very specific in why you should not fake it till you make it, try to look awesome, all these self-promotion? Why should you not do that to consumers?
Well, trust that they're going to find out, and that's never fun. So the fake it till you make it, it's just not really setting you up for success in the long run. It would be a short-term play, and it's not sustainable as far as energy output. So think about if you're trying super hard to create this content to make you look really good, well, your bank account's just going to be dwindling, and you're not actually going to be providing value in the marketplace, and that is all that matters.
So are you saying that consumers care less about how you look than they do about what you're providing as value? You saying they don't think it's valuable that you have a coffee and it's 6 a.m. and you say wake up, crush it, repeat? You don't think that's valuable to consumer? I just want to be clear. I just want to make sure we got this down.
Yes. So,
I'm not sure if my sarcasm's coming off yet, but I'd like to explore this anyway, please.
But you bring up a good point, though. I mean, so there is some desire to really present yourself in the best light. And so how do you balance the present yourself in the best light and have that value creation and really offer some, customer service, value, skill? It's a balancing act, right? And Jeffrey, you probably got some thoughts on how
the balancing act part of it too, because if it's a luxury client and a luxury market, then appearance is going to matter more. However, it still always comes back to the actual value that you're providing to the marketplace. So I think that someone that's interested in the home buying process and they're looking at homes is going to be more interested in a monthly market update rather than, hey, look, I'm getting coffee right now. Crush it, right?
Yeah, it's right. It's right to the point. I mean, if you're looking for a home, you want information about that versus looking for somebody who's cool, right? So that's a powerful point. Well, I've definitely learned a lot about using social media because that's not often seen. I mean, we do it a little bit, having a website for commercial project, et cetera, but I don't see that as much. I don't see the leveraging of social media, so it's really kind of opened my eyes on that.
Yeah, I see most of what I see on social media coming through I have quite a few real estate people that kind of get into my feeds, and I just see a lot of the same thing over and over and over, and it's hard to wade through it all. And then there are a few people in there that stand out, and those are the ones okay, so that's someone I might want to work with.
But just so we're clear, why do they stand out?
Because there's actually some content I can use.
Yeah.
Maybe they've shared an article on interest rates and where they're going.
Right.
Maybe they've shared an article on what the new trends are in the industry. I might actually look at that.
But they weren't searching for likes. That's the thing, is they weren't self-fulfilling.
And they provided some value to me.
Weird.
And that's the key. And that the ultimate key to doing anything, even what we do, development and investing and doing the real estate, if you are providing value to other people, and if you provide enough value to enough other people, then you'll get what you need out of the deal.
Yeah.
As a byproduct.
Yeah.
It's definitely top of mind when we're looking at building a team, or it is what value do you bring to this deal? What skills do you have? How do you present yourself? What do you know that really adds value? But again, that balancing act, the value and getting people's attention, right? How do you demonstrate that you've got that skill? And so that's one of the benefits of marketing.
So the more magic formula here looks like valuable content that people can actually use and would actually want to open up and look at, delivered in a format, in a medium that they actually would access. And I think that's where it comes together. Good content, using Jeffrey's system, they're actually going through the messaging and not going into an email, what's going into your spam file.
One of the biggest part, I think, and then we might have glazed over pretty quickly, is the follow-up. So the initial message is fine. Doing it from the right state of mind as a person putting out the message, but the follow-up is even more important. We're going to go to another brink pretty soon, I think, but just with the couple slides we have, and maybe Tunde, I'd like you to hear about your follow-up too, because you guys are in different businesses than me. So my follow-up and his follow-up are similar, but I think it would be beneficial to hear kind of follow-up that you guys would do with the customers you service. What is the cadence of that message? How do you,
just a couple quick points for a speculative big box industrial building. I would say that on an email, because a lot of it is email, you tend to see brochures that go out once every 2 months or so as the development is ongoing. If you have a tenant on the hook, the level of engagement, if they're interested in the site, they want to do a site tour, then the engagement bumps up to once a week or more, depending on how interested they are. And then the follow-up really depends on the level of activity that the tenant's looking for. So once every 2 months, once a week when somebody's interested, and then it's daily or multiple times a day is what I often see.
Yeah, and honestly, what we do, when we get a piece of land, we get entitled, we go to sell it, it's all very high touch. It happens through industry associations and meetings and get-togethers with those people, conferences. That's where we make our contacts.
Yeah, and see, for me, it'd be rapid, like all the time as it goes.
Well, I think we touched on a number of things as it relates to marketing and just the way that we touch those customers, add value. We're going to take a quick commercial break and then come back and do some closing thoughts as it relates to marketing. Thank you for watching The Real Men of Real Estate.
It appears these hot ashes are about to be dumped, which could possibly start a wildfire. How will Smokey deal with such a hot situation? The garden hose defense. Next, a thorough stir. Then another spray. And finally, feeling if the ashes are cool.
Oh, yeah.
Ah yes, the selfie. A ritual practiced so frequently with this tribe, but not so much by Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to The Real Men of Real Estate, where we're focusing on all things marketing in real estate. If you joined us earlier on, you heard a lot about the different marketing programs that are used in residential, commercial, land development. And we also talked about platforms and integration. We've got Jeffrey Brogger on the line, who is talking about the statistics and ways to demonstrate value as well as branding yourself. Jeffrey, you have a couple thoughts that you wanted to share with the rest of us?
Yes, I do. So Steve earlier was talking about how is there all this noise out there in the social media world, yet some still stand out. Some posts, some figures still stand out. Well, after doing a lot of training on this, what I've realized is that if this is your goal to build a digital presence and to build an authentic one with high engagement with people that care about what you're putting out, the key is to build authority. You care about what those people are putting out amongst all the noise because it actually provided value to you. And if you think about what your target market would value most and then create content around that, you'll naturally attract those people to you because they see that it's valuable. And it seems like a simple concept, but it's actually much harder in execution to not only do at first, but to stay consistent. And that comes down to getting really clear on who your target market is, your strategy, and then getting some help. Getting some help from some assistants, some other people within your organization that can help to get on the same page about content and start to really drip that out through social media in a consistent way, because that will really make you stand out amongst all the noise out there.
Well, that's powerful, and I think you blended a couple different concepts as it relates to follow-up, value creation. How can people find out if there's someone watching the show who's interested in your platform and the systems that you're describing and wants to learn a little bit more? How can people find out a little bit more about you and what your firm does and the platforms that you have?
Right. Yeah. So you can just Google Steezy.Digital. It should be up here, but it's STEEZY.digital, and it should come right up. Basically, we are based in San Diego, but we have nationwide clients, and we're happy to hop on an initial consulting call, just see where your business is at, and see if we can help.
And before we wrap up, are there a couple takeaways or bullets that you want to share with us as it relates to marketing and how to be effective in it?
Yes. Number one, be authentic. People can see through it. Just be you, be authentic. I've helped build influencers, and I've know influencers, and the funny thing is that they reach this point way later on in their career that they all of a sudden start to be themselves, and their little quirks and their little personalities will actually make them stand out even more. But if you can be authentic from the beginning, it's going to help you. You know, just be you, be authentic. And number two, it's not about you. That's the biggest thing. On social media, people are going to social media to watch cat videos and check photos of their family, right? But then when they come across your content and it resonates with them and what they're going through in that moment, that is when they will reach out to you, they'll follow you, they'll join your messenger, right? So it's not about you. Think about the consumer and who you're trying to serve.
Well, thank you, Jeffrey, for sharing all of your insights as it relates to marketing. I also want to thank Steve Matley as my fellow panelist and Brian Fox. Again, I'm your host, Tunde Ogunwole. You're watching The Real Men of Real Estate. You can find us on Amazon Fire and Roku. Thank you for joining.